Exclusive, I'm Mike Montecalvo, along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. Unrest in the Ukraine, of course, Memorial Day is on Monday. We'll talk about those two things in just a second. On Wednesday, some strong words, General, from President Obama concerning the misconduct at the Department of Veterans Affairs. 40 people, veterans at the Phoenix location, have died because of long wait times, and they're starting to look at all of the facilities across the country. Your take on what the president had to say?
The president is right on the stick, so to speak. What he has to do now is to translate his frustration to action. And there are two parts to that. One has to do with the proper funding of the VA systems across the nation. And secondly, when you have something that's substandard as far as service, you've got to take immediate action to either replace or retrain or do something significant to make sure that those facilities are operating properly. That's the missing ingredient.
Well, that's the two big problems that they were talking about today. It was not only the delayed care, but the silence for so long. How come something wasn't said sooner?
Well, you know, I think it much had to do with some of those facilities were keeping that classified and secrets and separate lists, unlike Providence, as an example. As an outstanding facility, they have absolutely no backlog to speak of. They have no lists that are kept aside to make sure that they're not subject to any kind of scrutinization. Some of those facilities, specifically Phoenix was one of them, and they were able to make lists of individuals waiting for care that never came up to be surfaced to address a real problem.
Is it a funding problem? Is that why there was a delay?
In my opinion, it certainly is a funding problem for many of those facilities. But even when they're funded properly, if the money isn't spent properly as far as staffing is concerned and looking at alternatives to make sure they can satisfy the requirement and demand on those facilities, it goes hand in hand.
Should VA Secretary Eric Shinseki get out of office at this point?
Well, I think at this particular point, no. I do believe that there is an investigation that'll be launched shortly in reference to leadership and overall administration of the VA system. But I think all in all, much of the problem that General Shinseki experiences is proper funding and the inability for many of these directors and directors of the several VAs across the nation are unable to replace people without going through a whole myriad of bad stuff.
You know, Senator McCain spoke out after the president talked today. Obviously, he was a veteran and a prisoner of war. Everybody is criticizing, but we haven't really heard any concrete, information or concrete ideas of what to do next.
Yeah, I think what to do next is exactly what they're launched to do, and that's to conduct a real thorough investigation, identify specific VA facilities that are not in compliance, look at the leadership for those, and certainly look at the overall funding from year to year that the Congress has got to ensure takes place.
How long will that take, though, General? There are so many veterans sick and need action now, care now.
Once again, I think it'll take a while, unfortunately. But I think they need to look at an immediate requirement each of those facilities by having the directors of those facilities open up their records and identify where the backlogs are and backfill that.
All right, switching gears, let's talk about the Ukraine for a moment, General. The unrest continues, the sanctions are not working. Are we getting close to a possibility of military action? You know,
I think that's always a possibility. My major concern with the Ukraine as we see it unraveling is there will be a day, and we saw that yesterday, over the last couple of days, where Putin is getting closer and closer to China and looking at the ability to use his resources. It's like we're playing a checker game, or rather a chess game, and we're taking to that game a bunch of checkers. He has the upper hand. He has the resources to be able to use natural resources across Europe as well as China, who needs it, and that's the area we cannot confront. If it involves a military confrontation, we got some huge problems.
And we don't want to confront China at this point, do we?
Absolutely not. China, and we need to be on an economical basis with them. Without that market, we're in deep trouble.
Okay, Memorial Day is Monday. If you've never been to the Veterans Cemetery, it's quite a moving experience. I suggest that you go on Monday.
It is, and I'll tell you, between the VA in Rhode Island, that's a good story. Between the VA cemetery at Exeter, that's an outstanding facility, and I think we need to take advantage of going there to appreciate the pristine cemetery we have, and I can't begin to tell you what a moving experience that is.
And of course, there are parades throughout the state. Memorial Day and Veterans Day, I think some people get confused sometimes. Memorial Day is dedicated to the men and women who died in combat.
Correct. And of course, Veterans Day for those still serving or who have served. But Memorial Day is intended to honor those that made the ultimate sacrifice.
All right, thank you for your service, General, and thank you for watching.